something that he could see if things don't go well for Lamar Jackson. This seemed impossible 2 years ago, year and a half ago, that he could see the Ravens drafting a quarterback even next year. It's a great quarterback draft. It's interesting. His cap hit is going to go from $34 million to $84 million next year, which basically is a Super Bowl eliminator. And two things can be true. I think he's really talented. I think he's a good guy, works hard, super competitive, really, really talented. And I can also believe that seven of the top 8 quarterback cap hits did not make the playoffs. All I care about in the NFL, making the playoffs. Everybody retains their job unless you're Sean McDermott, and you make it all the time and can't advance. John Harbaugh, generally you make the playoffs, you're safe. Everybody's safe. So 7 of the top 8 quarterback cap hits missed the playoffs last season. I couldn't pay Lamar Jackson $84 million. I don't know. And here's the thing. Lamar's been okay in the playoffs, but he's so good in the regular season. And then you look at his playoff numbers, and it kind of gets into a Case Keenum category where it's like 83, 84. I mean, regular season superstar, playoffs, backup. Now, people will say, well, I mean, what about Josh Allen? No, Josh Allen has lost playoff games. But Josh Allen has a winning record in the playoffs. And the narrative on Josh Allen has been Sean McDermott did not do enough considering how well Josh Allen played. So Josh Allen, and I don't expect any quarterback to be better in the playoffs, but Lamar is half the quarterback regular season to postseason. Josh Allen's great to very, very good in the postseason. And that's with, let's be fair, not a lot of great wide receivers in Buffalo. So Jesse Minter, this is why, to me, you know, when John Harbaugh's job was in jeopardy, they draft Lamar Jackson, and everybody in the building, including John, knew Lamar kind of saved his job, theoretically saved his job. Well, Lamar knows that. All his allies do. Now Jesse Minter's in the building, and Jesse Minter is talking about these camps that Lamar doesn't like to show up to. He's talking about their next camp.
We're excited about the offseason program. I know Lamar's excited. I think he is excited about some of the changes. We've had a lot of good connection points, but you know, the offseason program is voluntary, and we're excited to get a chance to work with all the guys, whoever wants to show up. We feel confident that a lot of guys will be there.
Okay, so this is right in John's wheelhouse. John has a golf podcast. John lives, breathes.
Okay, they're transitioning to golf now. Okay. I'm a little confused by what the conversation was here. So I'm going to try my best to thread the needle. We're not going to get into a whole Josh Allen versus Lamar conversation, cause then, like Colin's saying, oh, well, they don't really have good wide receivers in Buffalo. And it's like, well, you can't really say that they have awesome receivers in Baltimore over the years either. Like we can kind of do that game. Lamar Jackson absolutely, positively needs to be better in the playoffs. Josh Allen has been genuinely great. You could just look at the bottom line stats. So that whole back and forth conversation literally never goes anywhere positive. It literally goes nowhere productive at all. Okay. I got such a crash course in this in 2024 when it seemed like Lamar was playing, he's playing Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. And it was just like, and every segment was like, Josh Allen or Lamar. Lamar, Joe Burrow. Lamar or Mahomes. And it was like they really went that year in 24 for whatever reason. Everybody was going all in on these direct head-to-head comparisons, and it goes nowhere. I mean it goes nowhere. Sometimes it can be fun. Sometimes I think it gets in the way of the necessary, important conversation. So I encourage you guys to just put that to the side. I just put that to the side. Let's just have a conversation about the Ravens. And Lamar Jackson and the things that need to happen, the things that don't need to happen. Like let's not bring up Joe Burrow. Let's not bring up Josh Allen. Let's not bring up, it's like let's not do it. Okay. Let's just leave it as is. But the whole cap hit thing, if they get the extension done, then that cap hit won't be what it is. Like that's how these contracts work. You're always setting yourself up at the very end of the line for things to kind of get crazy financially. And you do that because you know, well, we're going to extend this quarterback. So we're not actually going to have to pay the repercussions of how that contract was originally structured. And that's how you do things with your signing bonuses and your void years and etc., etc. And I had talked about this with when we were talking about with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, that it's so easy to design contracts like that earlier on in someone's career because you know, well, we're obviously going to sign you to another contract. We're obviously going to do that. Like it's really easy to structure contracts that way because you're not going to have to again pay the repercussions of having such a massive cap hit. 'Cause again, what you do with void years and bonuses and all that stuff. But once you reach the point where you are with Josh Allen and Lamar and Mahomes, it gets a little trickier. It gets a lot trickier for multiple reasons. One, you can't know. You're not going to be comfortable. Like if you set up Lamar's contract or Mahomes or Josh Allen's contract right now in a way where in 3 years or 4 years you're going to have this massive cap, you don't have the same feeling, well, in 3 or 4 years we're going to re-up him for another 2, like you don't have that feeling. And so the way how some of those things have to be restructured is tricky. So you're not only trying to think of like, well, how am I going to feel, let's just use 4 years, you know. In 4 years from now, not to mention if we don't feel comfortable in that, how can we pay this quarterback what he's worth right now without crushing us from a cap hit perspective? Like it's so much harder to thread that needle. It's really, really hard. Because again, the way you're able to pay these quarterbacks and still make do is with all the magic with the void years and signing bonuses and you know doing all that, so essentially you know, what the Eagles do all the time. And what the Chiefs did. You know, the Eagles and the Chiefs. But it's just becomes harder when you're getting closer to the end of someone's prime. Now again, Lamar definitely has years left in him. And this has been a common theme that I've been talked about a lot throughout the course of this off-season. Like I'm the one that, and I've been very firm on this. Like I think like we have like a 2 to 3 year window with Mahomes, Lamar, Josh of like this is their peak. This is their pure peak athleticism, physicality. Like they've been such fascinating quarterbacks because they're brilliant for so many different reasons. But it's also like their horsepower, their raw horsepower, their athleticism, their physicality has been so special, so magical. And obviously Lamar is like the extreme version of that. It's not to say that there's not other aspects to their game. Lamar's a great passer, so is Josh, so is Mahomes, etc. But it's just so hard to really grasp what these quarterbacks are going to look like when that starts to fade away from them. And it's not going to last forever. So we can talk about some of these other quarterbacks of how they age and what they looked like. It's like, but what really skyrocketed the reason why you could look at Lamar and be like, this is truly an all-time great talent, is not just because of his quarterback abilities. It's because of everything else combined. Everything else combined. And so I just don't think we can use like the Michael Vicks of the past and whatnot. And it's just like I don't even think we can use those comps at this point. I don't know how helpful that is. And the closest we kind of get is Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers had a lot more athleticism than anyone really actually understands. Like there's a lot of highlights that if you saw Aaron do, you'd be like, oh, that's Mahomes. And it's like, yeah, people don't realize that. But it's also like Aaron is also obviously an elite pocket passer to the highest degree as well. And an elite executor at operating an offense to the highest degree. You know, again, to the point where people were like, he's better than Tom Brady. And so it's just like if you removed some of the athleticism of Josh Allen, of Mahomes, of a Lamar. And to be clear, like I'm grouping them all together here. Like nobody, you can't just say without a shadow of a doubt, well, we remove all of that, they're still an elite all-time great quarterback. I don't know if it's that easy to say that when we could say that with again, of course, obviously like a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be fascinating to see what these guys look like. I believe in them. And again, that's why I keep trying to emphasize like this is not a Lamar conversation. This isn't like well Lamar's just not good enough as a passer. That's not the take. That's not the take. That's why I'm lumping Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, right? And Joe Burrow gets the he's on the side one because sadly he's only so relevant because he can't stay healthy and the team is always just a mess. And also he's not special because of his mobility and his athleticism and his raw horsepower. And so we're going to get a crash course of what these types of quarterbacks look like as they turn 29, 30, 31, 32. And we saw the worst version of it with Lamar when his athleticism wasn't there, when he was a little banged up, and it was just like this is not the quarterback that we know and love. Like this is not. I hope I made a joke with Lamar, just felt like you're playing Madden and you dropped the controller. It's just like it was just like this is not what I am expect like what is this right now? We saw with Lamar and Josh. All three of those quarterbacks, they were all physically compromised a bit and it was not good. Right? We did not see the best versions of them. That's an introductory of what it's going to look like with them aging. And so again, I don't think we're on the decline now where we're just going to see that, but it's just like this is a make or break year for like all three of these quarterbacks. And I think all three of these quarterbacks all have to continue to grow and evolve and learn how to play. I don't want to say like a different brand of football, but just it just needs to evolve. It just needs to evolve. And I'm not going to say that because again the question right here says crazy to think they would move off, snorts, Lamar. And I know a lot of Raven fans and Lamar fans will be like, would we ever have this question about Josh Allen? Would we ever have this question about Patrick Mahomes? And it's true, right? Like it's totally fair. And I think that comes with the territory of people believing that no one believes that Patrick Mahomes has been a playoff issue. And the reality is Josh Allen is not tagged as someone who's been an issue in the playoffs. And Josh Allen again, and I'm not trying to make this a comparison between Josh and Lamar, but Josh Allen has had bigger playoff performances. Whether we want to say it's because of the roster, because of the coaching, it doesn't matter. It's just the way how it's unfolded in this moment of time. And again, this is coming from the person who all of Lamar's last two playoff losses against the Chiefs and against the Bills, I defended him till I was blue in the face. Okay. Defended Lamar. I was working overtime defending Lamar. Even last year or 2 years ago, I guess against the Buffalo Bills, I made like 4 or 5 videos going through all of it showing Tom Brady throwing interceptions and Peyton Manning throwing intercept, and like all that type of stuff. So like I've defended Lamar. But it is still part of his story whether it's right or wrong. And so there's going to be more of the door opening of kind of like if you were going to move off a quarterback, if we're lumping these three quarterbacks together, if there's a quarterback that you were going to move off of, the general consensus would be is like, well, you're going to move off of Lamar before those quarterbacks. And quite frankly, the Chiefs are going to run Patrick Mahomes into the ground, right? Like they're going to just because of all the success they had, you'll ride that until the wheels fall off. In a way that I don't think a Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Lamar will have that luxury. I mean, there was conversations about moving off of Joe Burrow, if you remember, just because he couldn't stay healthy. And like Nick and all of them were having real conversations of like, listen, if he can't stay healthy this next year, like it's time for the Bengals to like draft another quarterback, blah 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 blah. So those are the conversations that are just regularly had around the NFL. I mean, Matthew Stafford was the MVP this past year. And it was the prevailing opinion that the Rams were going to draft a quarterback. In fact, like Colin was on this, was like he thinks that Sean McVay is going to draft Jackson Dart. Right? Like that they want their next quarterback. They need to, like they were going to draft a quarterback in the first round. But then they obviously pivoted and Matthew Stafford was literally the MVP and got to the NFC Championship game. So it is always tough. It is always tough. And listen, this is the person who's made at this point I couldn't even count how many Jalen Hurts defense videos and yet I straight up said yeah, if he's enough the Eagles. Move on from him. Like that's the way this works. No matter what you've been able to accomplish in the past, no matter where your standing is from a legacy standpoint or how special you are or this or that or the third, like these are the conversations that are always being had. No matter who you are, no matter what you accomplished. Packers moved on from Aaron Rodgers, right? Like we got the Patriots moved on from Tom Brady. The Patriots moved on from Tom Brady and then he went out and literally won another Super Bowl. Right? You know, quite frankly could have won a couple more Super Bowls with the Bucks, if we're being honest with ourselves. So this is just the way it works. This is just the way, so I wouldn't personalize it. I wouldn't say that this is so 100% unique to Lamar in that regard. It's the conversation that people start to have. I think if things don't go well I say I don't even think of it as like a team success. I think it's like if Lamar doesn't look how you want him to look then you can start flirting with that idea. But this has always been the issue with hiring defensive coaches for absolutely insanely talented quarterbacks like Lamar, Josh Allen, etc. If Patrick Mahomes starts to look not right, the plan for the Chiefs is not, well, we just need to fire Andy Reid and get a new coach. It's just like no, like Andy knows what he's doing. He knows how to get the best out of Patrick Mahomes. Sean McVay knows how to get the best out of Jared Goff. Stafford Shanahan knows how to get the best out of Purdy, etc. We can't make those same statements for especially Lamar and Josh Allen. And it's not a surprise that they've had such similar careers and they've had defensive head coaches, multiple offensive coordinators, etc., etc., etc. So evaluating and troubleshooting certain problems with someone like Lamar, it's always going to be a bit tricky because they just don't have the coach, the offensive coach, that I can say I trust him 100%. If Brock Purdy just does not look right, I'm not like, oh shish, Shanahan doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, no, it's Brock Purdy's fault. I'm like, this is on Purdy. Purdy needs to be Purdy needs to Purdy, it's like it's Purdy. Same thing with Stafford and McVay, right? Like a go down all the list. Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. And it's just like that is not what Lamar has. So like it's tricky, but I do think in this moment of time I think there's the argument to make that the Ravens are looking, snorts, that if this team fails over the next 2-3 years you can make the argument that they would keep Jesse Minter and move on from Lamar. I see that argument that they're like, well, we're happy with our coach, we're happy with the way our defense looks, blah blah blah. Like I could see that being the case more so than, well, this doesn't, if this goes wrong, if this goes poorly we're firing Jesse Minter and we're getting another coach. Like unless Lamar plays out of his mind, wins the MVP and then they still lose and you know, the defense is terrible, etc. And then there's like another great offensive coordinator who you know, maybe it's Sean McVay, maybe it's you know, whoever picks some random team that their offense suddenly looks amazing and now they're like, okay, Ravens now want that as their head coach, right? Like I could see that, but then again it's just like you're looking now like at that point what would Lamar be like 33 turning 30, like it's just, it gets messy. It really does. Like this timeline I genuinely believe in my heart of all hearts Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes timeline right now is incredibly messy. And it's extra messy for Lamar and the Ravens because of some of the unknowns offensively. We can believe that the coordinator will be great or this or that, like we can believe all that, but we don't know, and it's just hard to gauge someone's also ability as a coach to troubleshoot. Troubleshooting is so important. I trust Andy's ability to troubleshoot. I trust Sean McVay's ability to troubleshoot. Like there's plenty, like listen, there's other coaches who I absolutely love that I'm like, well, I don't know. I haven't seen you troubleshoot enough. I haven't seen you have to really pivot or overcome strong obstacles. I don't necessarily see that with Ben Johnson yet. I love Ben Johnson. I made a whole video ranting and raving defending Ben Johnson because he was not considered a top coach in the NFL. He wasn't top 10. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's insane. But it's like I still need to see him troubleshoot more. Still need to see him be able to overcome more concrete obstacles, which I did not necessarily see him do with Jared Goff and the Lions. I did not necessarily see him do the rest. Doesn't mean that he can't, but I haven't seen it yet. I've seen Sean McVay. I've seen Andy Reid, like it's like I've seen it. And I'm a big firm believer that you're always facing obstacles throughout the course of a season, throughout the course of a run with a team. And so like being able to troubleshoot is so important to me. And it's not clear that the Josh Allens and the Lamars have had that have been able to have that, benefit from a coaching perspective, which then again, it makes it harder to understand which direction are you going to go in. But yeah. It's the conversation around Lamar is pretty fascinating. I'll end here because I remember this was years ago. This is well before I was making any videos. And Colin was so pro Lamar. And like he was like really actually one of the loudest voices that I personally was hearing. And he kept banging that drum of how great Lamar is, how great Lamar is, how great Lamar is. And again, this was years ago. This is maybe like 21, 22, like definitely before 23. So it was like 21, 22, somewhere within that range. And it's just interesting to me because then people said, oh, he was actually originally anti-Lamar, and I didn't realize that. I just wasn't as locked into everyone else's takes at that time, and they're like he was actually, didn't believe Lamar was going to be good, etc., etc. And it's like now I feel like we've kind of come back to the idea that Lamar is not good. Like Colin has clearly chosen Harbaugh over Lamar in the Baltimore Ravens divorce. He thinks that the Giants stock is just going through the roof, and there he's amazing, blah 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 blah. And Lamar isn't. And that Lamar is more of a problem for, let's just say, the lack of success for the Ravens than Harbaugh was. And what I find interesting is this is what when I went on my whole rant like this, is the top 10 to the top 14 NFL coaches in the NFL, like Harbaugh's not there. And McDermott, even if he was an actual still head coach, like he's not there. And now Jesse Minter's not there and Joe Brady's not there. Like it really is the ultimate disadvantage that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have had. Like it's more length than I think people really want to appreciate. And I think, considering the greatness that we've seen out of Lamar and out of Josh, and I'm specifically linking them to Toj. The fact that they haven't had a coach that will be able to look back and be like, man, like we know Sean McVay, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, like those are names that will essentially live forever in the NFL world. Mike McDonald is making that argument. Sean Payton's already there. Harbaugh's trying to make that argument, but he's in the conversation. Vrabel's already in his early in his coaching career. But he's also kind of has the extension of also playing Patriots, right, some of that booster. But like it's all there. And yet like you can't have that conversation with Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, Harbaugh, Todd Monken, right, like you're not going to have that conversation about those guys. And it's just like it's been arguably the biggest tragedy in both their careers of just not having that truly special coach. That special coach, and it makes it all the more impressive to me that they have been able to unlock and be as great and awesome as they are without that. I mean, again, can you imagine a Lamar Jackson with Ben Johnson, a Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Liam Cohen? Like it's just we've already seen such insane feats by these quarterbacks with coaches that are like, yeah, they're good. They're competent. They've been competent coaches. They haven't been bad, but competent. But it's just it is not Sean McVay. It is not Andy Reid. It is not Kyle Shanahan. It's just not. It's just night and day, honestly. It's night and day. I mean, we saw what Liam Cohen did with Baker and Trevor Lawrence. We saw what Ben Johnson did with Jared Goff and Caleb Williams. We saw it in real time. What do you think those coaches do with Lamar Jackson? What do you think they do with Josh Allen? Like it becomes game over. Because the closest we got to that is Andy Reid and Mahomes. And we saw that it was essentially game over. Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. That to me still continues to be the most important part to emphasize when having any conversation surrounding Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. But it doesn't let them off the hook. It doesn't mean that Lamar Jackson shouldn't have been better or Josh Allen, doesn't completely let them off the hook. It's not the only part of the conversation. You can have the full conversation as a whole. The problem is that it just gets very emotional, and that's why I was trying to say like the Patriots moved on from Tom Brady. The Patriots literally moved on from Tom Brady. If the Patriots can move on from Tom Brady, then every quarterback can be moved on. So it's just like, don't make it this most ultimate personal conversation. Don't make it about Josh Allen versus Lamar Jack, like don't turn this discussion into that. And then I believe we can have a much better, higher quality, and more accurate discussion. That's my hope. Doesn't always go that way when we talk about Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. And Jalen Hurts will throw him in honestly. But definitely obviously those three were just like fireworks. Which makes sense considering how crazy, what they look on the field. Honestly their off the field, conversations mirror what we see, on field. Pretty spectacular. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? Do you think it's possible that they actually indeed move off Lamar? I know they're working on a contract extension. How will it be structured? Zero idea, but it's a heavy quarterback draft next year. So it's said. They said this past year was supposed to be the best quarterback draft in a million years, and now they're like, yeah, they have arguments that Mendoza's really not that great of a quarterback. So it's like, who knows? But let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help. The visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.